Joining us right now is Armed Services Committee member, Georgia Senator David Perdue. Senator, good to have you on the program. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Maria.
What do you make of these allegations of Russian collusion with the Trump campaign?
Well, I think we heard everything there is to hear last night. The young man's being very transparent. I thought the questions last night on the TV program got to the bottom of what they talked about, and I think he was very open and honest. Look, Maria, we've got three investigations underway right now, one in the House, one here in the Senate, and then independent investigators looking into all this. If there's something here that needs to be looked at, I have full confidence they'll get to the bottom of it. So I'm focused on getting back to the things that we're trying to focus on here to get the people's work done.
Yeah, that's what we want to focus on as well, Senator. But the fact is this continues, and the mainstream media is driving the bus on it, constantly wall-to-wall coverage on the so-called Russian collusion. Is this distracting you? How much of a distraction has this been to actually getting your agenda executed?
No, I don't spend any time worrying about the details of it. We pay attention to it every day. But what we're focused on is health care, trying to get these other things done so we can move on to this tax work that we've desperately got to do later this year.
Senator, this is Rachel Campos-Steffi. I know you want to talk about all the work you want to do. I'm glad you want to do that. But it's just this whole thing with Donald Trump Jr. is so interesting to me. A professional politician would not have turned over all those emails. They would have used a bleach bit and gotten rid of it. And they don't meet with the person that has the dirt on their opponent. They send their operative. In some ways, doesn't the sort of unprofessional manner in which Donald Trump Jr. handled this just prove that these guys are outsiders and in some ways endear them to the people who voted for outsiders?
Well, I think that's exactly right. I'm an outsider myself, and that's exactly how I got elected. That's how this got elected. This guy got elected. And look, whether you think this is unprofessional or not, what I'm looking at is a president that's working at a business pace, not a bureaucratic pace. He's focused on why the people elect him. That's job one, is get the economy going again. And let me tell you, aside from all the headlines, the work that's going on in the White House is producing results. I mean, what we're working on right here, regulatory reform. Remember, we did get a Supreme Court justice nominated and confirmed. And we're, there's every potential that we're going to continue to get the regulatory work and move on to tax. So this is a president that's getting a heartbeat in that administration. I think they've got their feet on the ground now. They know where they want to go. And all these things are to some degree distractions. Yes, they're important. We need to make sure nobody's fooling around with our elections. But right now, we're focused, to answer your question, on the day-to-day work to get our work done here to move this economy along.
Senator, it's Kevin Kelly. I'm glad you brought that up, that you're focused on the day-to-day to get your work done. I know that you're one of the senators that wants to stay and actually petitioned Mitch McConnell to reduce the recess and actually stick around and get things done. You mentioned you're an outsider, but the American people want to see the Senate get something done. We're seeing the House is pointing the fingers at the Senate saying, listen, they're focused on the Byrd rule. They're also wanting to get to 60. Why don't you guys just get rid of a lot of these rules that are impeding your agenda, especially on health care, especially on taxes?
Maria, I love it when you have these business guys on here.
Exactly.
Seriously, Kevin, you've got it. You got your finger on it. Look, I spent most of my life in the real world where you live, and that's exactly what we do in the real world. Look, in the Senate, we just did that in the Supreme Court confirmation. We actually changed a rule to do that. Look, there's some traditions here that I think are important we need to protect, but right now we've got to focus on getting the people's work done. We're down a rabbit hole. Maria talks about the debt all the time, and this is something we've got to start facing. The long-term dangers of that are really republic threatening. Right now we're focused on this health care issue, and we've got to move on, though. We've got so many things that we've got to do, and that's the reason we wrote this letter to the leadership. And frankly, I give the leadership a lot of credit for standing up yesterday and saying, look, we're going to stay here for at least 2 weeks during that work period to make sure we continue to get this done. Look, we've got to get the debt ceiling worked out. We've got a budget to do. We haven't even done the budget for 18 yet. We've got to do reconciliation of the budget and fund the government by September 30th. We only have 30 days, guys, left between now and the end of the fiscal year. We just added 10 days, and if we need more, we'll add more.
Good for you. And do you think you'll get a vote to the floor on health care? I mean, a lot of people are questioning why you didn't just vote on the House bill. They went back twice. They had a bill, but you guys wanted to rip it up and start again.
Well, that's Washington, isn't it? I mean, everybody's got a better way. Right now, we're fighting, the last few details.
So what's holding you back, Senator? What's holding the bill back right now?
Well, I think we're trying to get the last vote or two. Look, we're down, I believe we're down that close. Honestly, everybody is trying to get to a yes on this bill. We have worked the details behind the scenes feverishly for the last several months. In the last few weeks, even, leadership has given us another few days. Remember, we were supposed to have a vote on this a few weeks ago. So what we've done now is we've taken the last few reservations. We've even sent some of those suggestions that would alleviate some of the fears of some of these members to the CBO to get them scored. We'll get those scores back Monday. We'll see the final language tomorrow, actually, we're told, and then have a vote on it next week. I hope we'll get a motion to proceed, though. That's the first question we have to get over is, will this Senate body let us proceed to actually get on the bill and amend the bill on the floor of the United States Senate?
Senator, it's Mike Murphy. As a business person, you know, when you have a deal, both sides give in a little bit. So it seems universal. Everyone wants to get this health care bill. Whether you're Republican, Democrat, everyone wants a good, solid health care bill for the American people. So why not just get together, and both sides have to give in a little bit, but the point is this bill has to get done. And so if you get kind of a bipartisan take, like you would in business, lock the door, and we're not leaving until people can figure out the best plan. Is that something that can be done, or do you expect that done sometime in the near future?
Well, that's my hope. I have to tell you, inside the Republican caucus, that's exactly what we've been trying to do the last few weeks, is really to compromise, find ways to compromise in this, and we have some leaders in that. I mean, Lamar Alexander's been trying to broker that. We have a group of 13, but that's been open to a lot of people. I've been to most of those meetings myself. Look, this is an effort to try to find an 80% acceptable solution, just like you do in the business world every day. Nobody gets a 100% perfect solution in a deal. You guys know that. So what we're trying to do here is to find something that's certainly better than Obamacare. And what we're working on right now, if we pass the House bill, or even we pass the bill that we had a few weeks ago in the Senate, both of those are better than the Obamacare situation we have right now that's collapsing under its own weight.
Let me ask you this, Senator, because you are on the Senate Finance Committee, which means you are going to be taking the testimony of Janet Yellen on Thursday. Of course, today she's speaking to the House Financial Services Committee. What do you want to hear from Janet Yellen? What's most important to you, Senator?
Boy, there's a lot. I've met with her recently. You know, there's some, first of all, when she comes before the Banking Committee, I think it is, the first question I'm going to have for her is the balance sheet. You know, the Fed's had this $4.5 trillion balance sheet for a while now. There's talk about reducing that now to about $2.5 at about $50 billion a month. That's fine. But Maria, as you've talked about on your show, we have some $6 trillion in the private sector not at work in this economy, between the Russell 1000 balance sheets, between what's stuck on the bank balance sheets of the small banks and community banks because of Dodd-Frank, and then, of course, this insane nonsense we have of unrepatriated profits overseas because of our repatriation law. $6 trillion. If we can release some of that, then I can see the balance sheet being reduced at the Fed. That's number one. Number two is the rate environment. Right now, we've had a 100 basis point increase over the last 15 months in the Fed fund rate. That's a big number. That's $200 billion of new interest every year. And oh, by the way, the other question I have is 60%. Now, this is a question for the Treasury, but 60% of our $20 trillion debt, Maria, is 3 years or less. The duration is less than 3 years. Contrast that with the UK, who went long over the last 8 years, and theirs is 48% longer than 20 years. We've got some serious issues with the structural debt of this country.
Yeah, you make a really good point, because earlier we were talking with one of your colleagues in the House, and he said, look, I want to know why rates are going higher when I look at my district in Tennessee, people are worried about their jobs. Things are moving slowly. So do you also worry that as the Fed raises interest rates, it's going to stop the traction that we've seen so far in this economic recovery?
I'm worried about that, and I'm also worried about if we don't get our job done here in the Senate and in Congress and get this tax deal done this year, we could be facing a less than optimistic environment next year. Right now, what we have, Maria, as you've talked about on your show when you have these experts on, like you have today, the economy wants to turn. Consumer confidence is at a 13-year high.
Right.
I've studied that for a long time, and I have to tell you, it's fragile, though, because household debt is now back up to 100% of household income, just where it was before 2009. So this is a fragile potential turnaround, and we need to see that the work in Congress move. But also, we need to see the Fed be very careful. They're working on one number, and I disagree with this. I'm no economist, but I know when you only focus on unemployment right now and ignore the underemployed and the people who have physically dropped out of the workforce, then you're missing the bigger picture that I hear every week when people are asking me, David, is there anything Congress can do to help me get my hours up? I mean, this is one of the unintended consequences of Obamacare.
Yeah,
It is. The CBO found that the ACA reduced labor participation.
Yeah,
so even the
absolutely.
CBO found that out, that it hasn't worked.
What's the corporate rate, Senator, that you want to see in a tax package? Because we all know that corporate rates are going to come down. They should come down. That's going to move the needle on economic growth. So what's your priority in terms of a corporate rate?
Look, in my opinion, depending on what we do with the deductions, I think if we get in the 20% range, we'll be competitive with the rest of the world. It's still a premium to do business in the United States, and we should demand a little premium, but we've got to get competitive with the rest of the world. The bigger thing that we also have to do at the same time is eliminate this insane repatriation tax. And that's one of the problems I have with the way the CBO scores this. And so we're moving on those right now. We're going to try to enact the president's package on the individual side and give people a break there. But the big news here is to put American workers back in competition again with the rest of the world by creating a level playing field, which is what this president ran on.
And that's why you want 15%.
Well, he wants 15, and listen, that's an opening bid. If we get in the 20% range, Maria, we'll be competitive with the rest of the world, depending on what we do with the deductions.
That's what I was looking for. What's your number? Senator, good to see you, sir. Thanks very much.
Yeah, thanks a lot,
guys. We'll see you soon.